As we continue on, we go into the diencephalon. And I hope you remember the diencephalon consists of the epithalamus, the thalamus, and the hypothalamus. All the thalami right in here. And obviously the third ventricle as well. It's just right in here. And surrounded by the cerebellar or the cerebral hemispheres. When we look at what's here, there's so much stuff when it comes to the thalamus. There are a vast number of nuclei there. It is a huge relay center for everything except for smell, which is unique. It's weird. So everything, all sensory info except smell is passed through here. It also has a nuclei called the intralaminar nuclei to help promote, a state of arousal. So it's involved with helping you to wake up. And this is going to bring in all that sensory input, your alarm, basically, and help to get you up and get the neurons firing in your brain to stimulate you to be awake. We'll look at that in terms of the epithalamus, because the epithalamus contains a pretty important structure, the pineal gland. The habenullar nuclei is there as well. I mean, there's a few other things, but the pineal gland is what we're going to be looking at. Pineal gland is important because of what it secretes, melatonin. And melatonin is involved with your circadian rhythm. And we'll dive into that, how all that functions and how all that works when we look at the endocrine system here. The hypothalamus, again, a number of things here. It has a number of nuclei. I think I have a picture on the next slide to kind of show that off a little bit. But it has a number of nuclei that are going to help regulate various drives. Hunger. The hypothalamus, they do a ton of research with it, determining how hunger and satiety are geared into it, and hormones that act on the hypothalamus to trigger it to go find food, or to trigger it to be, what, I'm fine, I'm content, I'm going to put the food away, as well as water. It's involving with regulation of body temperature, sexual arousal. It's the master control for the endocrine system. Makes a couple of hormones too, and communicates with the pituitary gland to store those for later use. So we'll talk about some of this, maybe some of the stimulating and inhibiting hormones that the hypothalamus can do when we look at the endocrine system, but we definitely got a lot of stuff there for it. Here you can see it has its own connection with the pituitary glands called the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal tract. And this is just an intimate connection of blood vessels and nervous innervation between the two, because these two are, they are related. They develop in utero in similar fashions there. But you can see we have a number of various different nuclei. We have the suprachiasmatic nucleus, probably the most important one there. We have mammillary bodies kind of right there in the region. It's going to be important later on. There's just a lot of various things here, but understanding what it controls, that's probably more important than anything. Here is your circadian rhythm. Again, it's the suprachiasmatic nuclei, one on each side. It contains basically these clock cells, and a lot of them, and they oscillate to control your circadian rhythm and your seasonal rhythm as well. So it's kind of cool in how it stimulates and releases some stimulating hormones to help wake the brain up, and it's triggered by light. And again, so the retina is going to be involved in there, and we'll talk about that in chapter 11. We'll talk about that process and how that goes. So suprachiasmatic nucleus here in the hypothalamus, involved with your circadian rhythm and the pineal gland.